What is the highest theoretical DPS possible in game? Now, this video is going to be hinging on the realms of implausible, impossible, not very useful, etc, etc. I'm basically going to be looking at what the highest theoretical DPS is. Now, when it comes to this is going to be something that is going to be achievable in game, but for less than a point of where it would actually be useful to you as the player. So if you're coming here for some genius level build that's going to decimate everything, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, that's not what this is going to be about, simply just because the areas where this will be possible are going to be few, far between, and most of the time the targets that this will be possible on are going to be dead before you actually get to that point. Now, in doing this, I'm going to set myself a few rules. We are going to be looking at single target only because there is a cheat we can do with this by utilization of negotiators, obviously. And we're also going to be doing this in the realm of being solo, simply just because I honestly can't be bothered calculating it out with like a full 8-man team worth of buffs, or even potentially incorporating countdown into it. So we're going to be doing this solo, and from there you can basically use your imagination to imagine what you would get if we were in an 8-man team within Countdown with perfect scenario buffs. Now, like I said, this is going to be within the realms of possibility. Considering like absolute top tier mentalist play, probably looking at some of those crazy Germans, this will be possible. But for players such as myself, we're not going to even get remotely close. We're looking at perfect scenario setups that will last for barely a second and then it's all over, at which point the build is basically null and void. You might as well use literally anything else at that point. So hopefully for this we'll understand that the gear set we're mostly going to be looking at is strikers, hopefully for obvious reasons. If you don't know why we're looking at strikers, it's quite simply just because for single target DPS, it is massively above quite literally everything else in the game. And then just to help us set the rest of what we're going to be looking at as our benchmark, we're going to add in some Grupo gloves, Coyote's mask and Ouroboros. I kind of feel like this is going to be a pretty basic standard of where everyone realizes this does a lot of DPS. It's probably one of the easier builds to go for within the incursion. We know this thing hits, right? Theoretically. So this is the build I'm referring to, 4-piece strikers, Grupo Coyotes with Ouroboros, and this is its DPS, 18 mil and 24 mil respectively for body and then head. But what if we give a more powerful build, swapping out for Bloody Knuckles and then a Grupo piece? Well, we're getting like 16 and then 18% more again, but now stronger weapons for that individual burst. Backfire as well as then Lady Death are very, very good and prominent in this area, both of which will give a huge increase. But as you can hopefully see, Backfire with the Bloody Knuckles is doing more on body shot than the original Ouroboros build was on headshot. So it's very clear that we're on the right path, especially within at least the individual gear pieces or the build. Maybe not so much the weapon yet. Hopefully as well you can potentially understand what I mean by theoretically possible but not realistically achievable. Utilizing something like Backfire on this build with Bloody Knuckles and then a Grupo piece, it is possible to get all 200 stacks both from strikers and the weapons, but it's going to be a ridiculous ball ache, especially if you don't have any form of Hasbro or way to heal yourself through the bleed. So hopefully we've gotten to the point of where we understand that. But now we need to start looking at the simple fact of what other weapons could potentially outperform within these scenarios. There is one that I'm potentially looking at, which I'm hoping a lot of you have been screaming at me this entire time, Sleipnir. Now annoyingly I had to do a little bit of jigging around to get Sleipnir to fit, so we've now got a Cheska piece instead of Grupo, Bloody Knuckles. We've had to swap around quite a bit of our crit mods, but it does end up working. However, in terms of DPS, unless we're looking at specifically headshot, we're not really gaining that much, and it is completely reliant on frenzy, but that's perfectly okay. We're literally just looking for the biggest DPS number. We're not looking as to how realistic it would be to keep this up over a lengthy period of time. We're just looking to see it. Can we at least achieve it once, which in this scenario we could. Now, I have tested a lot of weapons, and I'm not going to put all of their spreadsheets on screen. One of the ones that I really did want to test was Chameleon, but even in this area, Chameleon doesn't quite live up to it. We end up dropping about 7% damage just to actually even try and fit the damn thing in. And then overall performance, even like just looking at burst, we're actually about 24% lower than even something along the lines of backfire within this scenario. So it really then does start to become very, very nitpicky as to what actually works. So if there was one that kind of surprised me, and that would be Ravenous. Ravenous actually has an interesting mechanic where it's got its own multiplier. That goes up to 200%. So if we then actually calculate that in with, again, strikers, we're doing some considerable unga bunga, along with also utilising things like bloody knuckles. Now here comes the annoying part. Ravenous is completely capable of triple stacking. Very hard to do, you've got 5 seconds to do it in, but you can stack it up to 3 times. And this is what that looks like. It's kind of a little bit insane. Now the annoying part here is of where this is now theoretically possible. If you were to do this against the Chunga, they're going to break and die before basically anything else. See, the thing you need to remember is this is only effective against armor plating, so Chungas and Warhounds. But if you're suddenly doing like 16 to 22 million a shot, plus in a few circumstances here, the highest we're actually capable of outside of headshots, we're still looking at quite easily 21 mil, between 15 and 21 mil. If you were to do this against the Chunga, they're going to break in 1 or 2 shots. So you're not really going to get that full potential in DPS. So where does this actually then play a part? Well, the answer quite simply is Razorback. When we're damaging Razorback within the Dark Hours raid, that is essentially pure armor plating, which is where we're able to get this level of damage from. It's also one of the best tactics to actually use. Admittedly, we actually use a less powerful build, and then we use Dod City Holster along with a D50, so that we build up stacks on strikers with an ACS. Then we build up stacks utilizing the Ravenous to get the bonus armor that gives us the amplified damage to armor plating, because as long as we have that bonus armor, we essentially will always have the multiplier. You don't actively have to be using Ravenous to get it. We then swap to the D50 with a fully charged Dod City holster, and we one-shot the weak points or the plating areas of Razorback. That's it. That's the easiest way to do it. But sometimes we don't actually need to. We can just use Ravenous. It does more than enough DPS, and from what I have tested so far, it is the highest potential DPS weapon in the game. You just never really see it because it's very, very infuriating to use consistently, or use it well, to be perfectly honest. So there you have it, the highest theoretical DPS in the game. Ravenous, 4-piece strikers, bloody knuckles, and then a chest gut piece. This gives us 74.7 mil on body, 107.5 mil on head. Realistically though, where you're going to be getting this DPS, they don't actually have a head, so you're still going to be looking at 74 mil. This is only really going to be worthwhile in somewhere like Razorback. Everywhere else it's basically going to be redundant, and what you would do for the rest of the time during Razorback, I haven't got a clue. This also then is going to add into what the rest of your team is running, but still, point of this video was to see what the highest theoretical DPS is. Ravenous. Have fun. Good luck. Don't die. Bad for the health.